Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Joe Tyrrell and welcome back to the Run Off, the GP Blog podcast. It is Japanese Grand Prix weekend. We're all very tired. Toby, Cam, welcome back.
Hi, mate. Yeah, like you said, tired. Obviously, it was a pretty long race in terms of from start to finish, or when the start was meant to be. Max Verstappen. Before we go any further, congratulations on a second consecutive world title. But that been a little bit overshadowed by what actually happened in the race itself and decisions that were made by the FIA and things like that. So for a second year running, Verstappen has won the title in controversial circumstances, I guess. So yeah, a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, and yourself, Toby? How are you this weekend?
I've had two early starts. I was covering qualifying yesterday and got up for the race today, so my body is drained. And we've got a long day of uni tomorrow, so I'm not looking forward to it. But I mean, Verstappen's finally won, so there's something to talk about, I guess.
Well, yeah, we'll touch on that before we get on to the doom and gloom of what actually went down in the race. Let's just touch on Max Verstappen, world champion after a bit of confusion and fully deserved, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that it was obvious that we've known it for months now that Max Verstappen was going to be confirmed as world champion, and it happened this weekend. Could have happened at Singapore, but didn't. And then, yeah, it looked like it was always really going to happen when he put it on pole this weekend. Yeah, fully deserved. Like he's been the best driver this season. Red Bull have had the best car, and he's been the best driver. So it looks like Red Bull probably wrap up the constructors as well. I think Perez jumped ahead of Leclerc this weekend because he finished second, and yeah, Red Bull looked really good, and Verstappen, yeah, two titles in a row can't be knocked at. So equaled someone like Fernando Alonso's number of titles already. He's
He's
not
got.
really been at
I saw a
team
stat. He's done it in the same amount of races as well.
Yeah, so to win it so early, there's still several races still to go, and he's wrapped it up so soon. So yeah, definitely the class of the field this year and fully deserving of the world title.
I assume you agree, Toby.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing really else to say apart from that he is by far the best driver on the grid at the moment. There's no doubt about it. And each week he's made Charles Leclerc look. I don't want to say look worse, but the improvement from Max and the prowess of him, always at the front, always looking to put it on pole easily and things like that, has just made Leclerc and Ferrari look really quite bad in the last couple of weeks. But that's nothing taken away from Leclerc or Sainz, but Verstappen this year has just been amazing, and you really can't fault him for anything at all. I don't think.
No, I completely get what you're saying. I think Red Bull have made Ferrari look a bit amateurish. Um, Besides those first 2, 3 weeks of the season where it looked like they were going to be the amateurish ones, Max has just grown and grown into the season, and we are going into race weekends thinking, is anything else going to happen? Aren't we?
Literally just expecting Max to win. I mean, he won by what 27 seconds or something.
Yeah.
This is just it's just really stupid, but it's kind of happened the last couple of races in terms of like what happened at Spa and that kind of thing. So at Hungary, so yeah, we kind of expected Verstappen to. You sort of go into race weekends now being like, okay, Max is going to win realistically, no
Well,
matter
it's,
when it
it's like our
starts.
predictions now. We just always go,
So
oh,
boring.
we'll go boring and
Try to mix
simple.
it up.
Max pole and victory. Like there's if you can't be stupid to not say that at this point.
Just want a little bit from me. Comparing this to sort of Mercedes' era of dominance, this sort of standalone season, would you say Max individually has been more dominant this season, or Red Bull have been more dominant this season than maybe Mercedes in their prime during their 7 titles in a row?
I can't really comment on it because I wasn't around in the F1 era where Mercedes were kind of started up and then dominated. I was only there for the end of it. But from that side of things, they've just they have been the one dominant force in the sport this year. Like even like Cam said, then now Perez is now second overall in the drivers' championship. If you said, maybe I'm being a bit kind of over exaggerating with this, but if you said to me when I first got into sport that Sergio Perez would be trailing only Max Verstappen in the drivers' championship in 2022, I'd be like, okay, I'm not too sure I agree on that. But that just shows how good the Red Bull car is, but then also how good the two drivers actually are. Perez has had his ups and downs, but everyone does, apart from Verstappen. So I think that their dominance this year has just come down to everything fitting into place and looking really good.
Yeah, they have been ridiculously dominant. And I would say, I think it was a comment Lewis made after the Mexican Grand Prix last year about Perez. They knew how good the Red Bull was because Perez was comfortably beating Lewis or something. And I think that is fair play to Red Bull more than anything. They've produced a car that's just ridiculously dominant. There's not much else you could say, is there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've just waffled for the last couple of minutes about it. So I just think I'm kind of shocked at how good they are, despite knowing that they would be that good. If that comes across the right way.
Yeah,
I think that Red Bull I'm not quite sure how it's going to play out next year. It'll be interesting to see if like Mercedes make a sort of comeback, if Ferrari can sort of fix the errors they made this year in terms of strategy and sort of driver errors as well. But I think that Red Bull, this season especially, like last year it was kind of like them and Mercedes were very on par throughout the whole season, I thought. But this year they've definitely been in the class of the field, and it looks like it could well be the start of an era of dominance from Verstappen. And if Red Bull keep producing a car like they've done this year, then there's no reason why that won't happen.
Yeah, absolutely dominant from Red Bull. And I think we'll probably see that from now for the last 3, 4 races, is it? 4 or 5? Until the end of the
Yeah,
season.
it's just I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Verstappen wins them all. Really, like I know he's not got anything to fight for realistically now, but yeah, he probably will win them all.
It would be nice to see a different name on top of the podium. I won't lie. Maybe a different team even, because we've not had
Yeah,
we've had 2 teams on the podium this year, which has been a bit
yeah,
underwhelming. But that's the way Formula One is. We'll move on to the Japanese Grand Prix itself now, which was a weird affair by all accounts, because I've only seen the highlights. It just never really got started. Well, it took ages to get started.
yeah. Just rain again causing issues. Like obviously, it's great to see rain in F1. Like it tests the drivers, but like this, massively delayed start, race suspended, stuff like that, and yeah, a lot going on, and it took ages to finish. And then there's the whole controversy with the tractor being on the circuit, which is obviously something that should not be happening. The FIA have made a huge blunder there, and I'm sure they're aware of it now. The backlash online has been crazy, and rightfully so, because like we've seen it in the past, like with Jules Bianchi, what's happened, and you can't really excuse it. So I know there's blame on Gasly a little bit in terms of slowing down the incident that did happen. Obviously, Gasly was catching up to the pack, but there's no reason why you should have a tractor on the circuit while there's still drivers there, like especially in those conditions where visibility is low, and Carlos Sainz had just lost it there, so like it can be done by the best of the best, really, and so that it's just lucky that nothing happened there, because that could have been very, very bad.
The visibility looked.
It was awful, yeah, so bad. You literally couldn't see, like,
I think
be
it was off the line. Vettel, I can't remember, he collided with someone, and he he spun out.
I think it was one of the Alpines.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might have been, and like he was going for a move. Fair enough. Like the drivers go for it. Like they're the professionals, not me. But like you just couldn't see anything. Like you couldn't see 5 yards.
It was the spray that made everything so bad.
And
yeah, the spray was
Yeah.
crazy.
Go on.
It was crazy.
yeah, and the
So I
move
just think that,
the move Max pulled off went right off the line when he just kept going around the
yeah,
outside.
that was very, very brave, very brave. I thought like a sensible thing to do would just be like sort of let Leclerc have that position there rather than
Around the outside.
how he managed to, don't know how he managed to like sort of break that late and hold it really in those conditions, but fair play to him.
It's a shame, really, that we're talking about incidents, incidents that can be managed off the track. Again, really overshadowing another Max Verstappen title. Like it's becoming a bit of a habit.
Yeah. Yeah, like literally the tracks thing, and obviously like the race being awarded full points for, because after obviously Spa they're trying to change the regulations, so it was like if the race is suspended but then it resumes, you still get full points. But obviously they didn't do a full race distance and they still get full points. Like I think it's probably something they need to look at, because they shouldn't really have got full points for a race they haven't done a full race. I just don't think that's really like fair. Like I mean, I understand that it's just probably a lot easier just to award full points for it. But the race obviously resumed, which is why they give full points, but they just shouldn't really. I personally believe that half points would have been a better option because, like I say, they didn't do the amount of laps that you should do in a normal race at Suzuka.
Yeah, it's just the FIA not covering themselves in glory again. Just them making issues for themselves, isn't it, Toby?
Yeah, they haven't looked particularly great today. I think I saw somewhere on Twitter that I think you also mentioned it there briefly, Cam, that they tried to place the blame on Gasly.
Yeah.
Which I think is just another cop out. It's just, I don't really have too much to say on it because it just seems to be just small thing. Like I know Crofty mentions it all the time on his commentary that they don't seem to actually have like a set idea when they're in their race weekend, because every weekend there seems to be something different that has happened that hasn't prior, or something like that. And the fact that we're even talking about that in the premiere of motorsport is something that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, and it's just like you said before, it's just completely overshadowed Verstappen winning another world title. And obviously last year was very controversial, and more so than this because he was going to win the world title anyway this year. It didn't come down to last race or a decision like the one that happened at Abu Dhabi, which was obviously, massively in favour of Verstappen. But yeah, this one obviously full race distance didn't happen, so the points thing, and then with the tractor. So yeah, it wasn't. There was definitely two errors there from the FIA, really, and frustrating, really, because you want to see, you want to see it all decided on track and nothing really happening, behind the scenes. And even the fact that Leclerc lost second, and that handed Verstappen the world title after the race had finished, and that kind of thing is just annoying, really.
Yeah, it takes the shine off Max's win. But one thing that won't take the shine off Max's win is he is your winner this week, Cam. He has won a world championship with a big accolade. He is your winner.
Yeah, my winner this weekend. It's arguably a bigger accolade than winning the world title. But yeah, no, he fully deserves it. I mean, was the class of the field this weekend, as he's been for most weekends this season. Obviously put it on pole and then won the race, which meant that he could then win the championship when Leclerc went wide, straight on at the chicane on the final lap. So yeah, a dominant display from Max Verstappen. There's not too much more to say other than the fact that he's won the world title with so many races left to go, and it was another Max Verstappen-esque weekend where he sort of just doesn't look like he's ever bothered by anything that happens, just looks in control and just wins. That's what he does. He's just a complete winner. And I wouldn't be surprised if this happens again and again for the next few seasons because you're looking pretty imperious right now.
Yeah, Max Verstappen, you've had enough limelight this season, but you are Cam's winner this week. Toby, who's your winner this week?
So I have gone for Alpine. I think when you look at their weekend, I can't actually remember qualifying. So let me have a quick look just to check, because I have a feeling they were both in Q3.
Yeah, Ocon smashed it. I think Ocon started 5th. I think he put it P5 because he qualified.
Yeah, Ocon was P5 and Alonso was P7. And they finished P4 and P7. Yeah. So I think overall, that's a very just strong weekend from them. But then when also you compare it to McLaren, who's their rivals, who finished 10th and 11th, after last weekend where McLaren were the victors over Alpine, I think they're going to be really happy with that. I don't know what I've really not sold this very well because I don't know the stats or anything. So let me have a quick check. They're now ahead of McLaren again in the constructors, so they'll be happy. I don't know. Ocon and Alonso just had a good weekend and a good race. So I think
Ocon was very good. Ocon was really good. I thought, obviously, it's been announced that Gasly's now going to be his teammate for next year with Nick De Vries going to AlphaTauri, and Ocon's sort of going to have a bit of competition next year because I know Gasly's not really had a great year this year, but we know what a talent he is. And so Ocon's sort of obviously two Frenchmen who have in the past had their sort of disagreements and whatever it seems friendly on the surface from the announcements and stuff. So whether that's actually how they feel or not, or it's just a PR move, I'm not quite sure. But, Ocon would want to be the better out of those two. And putting in performances like this where you're, being better than a two-time world champion of Fernando Alonso is not going to harm that. And I think Ocon's had a great season. I think he's had a great season for a couple of years now, and is looking just like a really, really solid driver. And Alpine have got a real, gem on their hands, really, because, a performance like this, holding off Hamilton, out qualifying Hamilton, and then just beating him in the race. Yeah, quality from Ocon, and he really impressed me this weekend.
Yeah, well sold, Cam. You've helped me out there.
I think this is the season Ocon needed, to be fair, because I still feel as if, I think, was he beaten by Alonso last season in the championship? I've got a feeling he was. And it's still
very close. I think they were tied for qualifying or something. They're dual.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he's come in this season, and it's still obviously not over, but he's 13 points ahead with a few races remaining. He's well positioned to beat Alonso this year, and I think that's the season he needed to sort of go out on his own, as probably go ahead into next season as the lead driver at Alpine. But it remains to be seen.
Yeah, because I've experience
Gasly's going to want to be number one as well, I assume. So, but no,
that's interesting. I'm actually really excited to see that, because it's actually got. I mean, the last couple of years, drivers, pairings have been quite like well mannered. There's not really been any inter-team beef for the last one. I don't even know if it might have even been Ocon and Perez at Racing Point. Might have been the last proper sort of scrap between teammates. I suppose Verstappen and Ricardo when they had the Baku crash and stuff as well. But yeah, I think that could actually get a little bit tasty, which would be quite cool to see, because we're not really, it's another dynamic to F1 that we haven't seen recently.
Yeah, absolutely. On to the losers, the not so lucky. And Toby, I'll stick with you. Ferrari, just go downhill for them.
Yeah, there's not really too much to say on Ferrari apart from this weekend has just kind of summed up their season, I feel. Sainz crashing out on the first lap, which is not really his fault. I think he just lost the grip and then just skidded across the track. But then Charles Leclerc skipping the chicane on the last lap. And just handing Max Verstappen the championship.
You just have to find your breaking point, and just last moment. It's so cruel, but yeah.
So the way Leclerc technically lost the championship this season was by messing up his breaking point, which
sums it up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a statement in its own.
Yeah, I think that obviously Ferrari have made errors this year is in terms of strategy and the team itself, but the drivers have also actually made like fairly significant errors. Like you see Leclerc at France, for example, Leclerc here, Sainz here, like Sainz at Barcelona, like they have actually like sort of made their own mistakes, and that's something they need to cut out next year, because like you don't really see Verstappen making mistakes like that at all. So I mean, obviously he made one at Hungary when he sort of did a 360 spin, but it didn't really make any difference. So yeah, it's something they need to cut out, like the mistakes for Ferrari if they actually want to make a title challenge realistic next year, is cut out the team mistakes and the driver mistakes, and maybe they have a shot at beating Verstappen.
Yeah, and you've just rubbed salt in the wounds, Toby, by making them your loser this week. So I hope you're happy with yourself. Cam?
I'm very happy with myself.
Cam, your loser is not a driver, is not a team, it's the FIA, and I think that's another fair one.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it at the top of the podcast that they've made several mistakes and errors this weekend, and it's ultimately the thing that's caused the most controversy and gained the most headlines, really, in terms of what happened with the tractor and the outrage on social media, with loads of drivers coming out and saying like this should not be happening. Like I remember seeing Perez tweeting like, how many times do we need to say we don't want to see, tractors on the track while we're driving there? Obviously Gasly, George Russell I saw as well. So they're all coming out and saying this shouldn't be happening. I mean, you've got all the drivers, agreeing on it. And I think I saw somewhere that Vettel mentioned it in the driver meeting as well this week, that like they need to be more careful with tractors, and then it happened. So it sort of just, sums up the mistakes that were made. And I know it's a hard job, sort of being in charge, and you're definitely like, under the spotlight, like being scrutinized a lot. So it is a high pressure environment, but mistakes like that are, can be so costly, because that could have been Gasly's life if things had gone slightly differently. And obviously the thing with the point system as well, which is obviously not as big an issue.
I don't have much sympathy for the race stewards, to be honest. Like, they're in charge of people's lives effectively, and they're paid probably quite handsomely to do so. And I appreciate it's a high pressure job, but they're the qualified they're supposedly the qualified people to do it, so they should be probably getting it right and not putting tractors on race courses. It's pretty much as simple as that. And I think you probably agree, Toby.
Yeah, like I mentioned it earlier, there's not too much I have to say on it apart from that I agree with all the drivers. I think the fact that, like you said, every single driver, or not every single, but a lot of drivers coming out saying what is going on just proves exactly like what has happened. And the fact that we've mentioned it so many times, the fact that that has outshadowed Max Verstappen winning a world championship just proves how much of a big issue it actually was.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a massive issue. And the FIA, you're losers this week. But let's move on. Let's look forward now. Let's have a bit more positivity. The US Grand Prix is coming up. I think it's the US Grand Prix. I hope it is.
It is.
Yeah,
It is the
yeah,
US
it is.
Grand Prix. In 2 weeks' time, we'll be going to the Circuit of the Americas. What happened last year? Max won, didn't he? And that was a crucial race for Max to win the title, really, wasn't it? Because
Yeah,
we all sort of thought
he held off. I feel like he
stronghold.
held off Hamilton. Looked
Yeah,
like he was going to, overtake him, and he held off. Hopefully, I think this weekend, or whenever is it this weekend? I don't think it is. It's next weekend, isn't it?
It's a
There,
fortnight's time.
yeah, there shouldn't be rain. We shouldn't have the rain issue, hopefully, because Austin doesn't really rain as much as we've seen in the typhoon season in Japan, basically. So hopefully, we don't have a
Hence, why are
suspended
we
race.
in Japan when it
I
seems
think I actually saw about people want the FIA or something wanted to move the Japanese Grand Prix to April or something, but the organisers wanted to keep it where it was, which is a bit of a bizarre decision given the weather that happens at this time of year in Japan. But who knows?
yeah, fair enough. No, we will hopefully in 2 weeks' time not see any rain. We'll have a normal race and at a nice time for us Brits watching the race, not at stupid o'clock in the morning because I'm not here for those times. I'm not around.
It's gonna be late in the evening, is it not?
I'd rather it be late in the evening than first thing in the morning, Toby. Do you know what time
Yeah,
it is?
it's not. Quali's 11 to midnight, and then
Oh, I didn't realize it was that late actually.
the race is an 8 p.m. start,
Oh,
which
race,
isn't
Oh,
horrendous.
that's fine. That's fine.
well, quality they should probably bring forward, but the race is fine. The race is fine. Prediction time, Cam. You're the man with the update. How do we stand? I think I've had a shocker.
Yeah. So for Japan, me and Toby both went with Max Verstappen to get on pole and win. So there's 2 points for us. Joe, you went for Max to win, so point there, but you predicted Leclerc to have another pole position, which he didn't get. And all of us got our surprises wrong. So Toby predicted Lando Norris would get a podium, which he didn't, obviously. I predicted that Perez would have a DNF when it was signed, so I was close, I guess,
Yeah.
but didn't hit with that one. And then that's just not close at all. We've got the complete wrong driver, but oh well. And Joe predicted an AlphaTauri in the top 6, which didn't happen. So the scores on the doors: Joe is with 15, Toby with 12, and I'm on 11.
I even get close. So sorry, read that again, Cam.
84 still. You're on 15, Toby's on 12, I'm on 11.
Cool. It's going all the way to the wire.
Yeah. Unlike the F1 World Championship, I think this is the more interesting thing, our predictions.
One of the earliest. I know there's not actually loads of races left because we've got an early finish.
Yeah, but in terms of like the start of October.
Right. But yeah, in terms of the calendar in the year, this is pretty early. We've only got 4 races left.
Yeah.
So all to play for in the prediction championship, the more important championship, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
But where are you thinking for the next week, 2 weeks times race? What are you thinking prediction wise, lads?
Go on, Toby, you go first.
All right, I'm gonna be really boring and go Max pole and Max victory. But my surprise, I want to say Mercedes podium, but do you want me to be specific as to which driver?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's go Lewis Hamilton podium.
Okay, go on then. I'll go to be a bit different because I need to catch up. Leclerc will be on pole. Max will still win, obviously. That's kind of a given. And surprise will be that Daniel Ricciardo will be in the top 6.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably only done that once this season, so
yeah. He likes going to Austin. I don't know. He just likes.
I'll be wearing his cowboy hats, won't I?
Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be his good luck charm, apparently.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go Charles Leclerc pole. I'm gonna go for a Carlos Sainz victory. And I'm going to go with a Valtteri Bottas top 6.
You're
Nice.
really opening the door for me and Cam here.
Yeah, Bottas hasn't had a good result in
Red Bull
years,
double
well,
DNF.
but since the start of the season. Yeah, Fez.
Red Bull double DNF.
Oh, as well. Wait, what's that?
No, I'm not predicting that, but
I was going to say.
no, that's my predictions.
Nice.
2 weeks time, come back, find out, because the championship could be wide open now. I've just opened the door a little bit. But lads, that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you as ever for joining me. Go get some rest because it was early starts for the Japanese Grand Prix. Have a good week, lads.
Thanks for having us, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Michael, let's go.